Matthew chapter 21, verses 12 through 17. The story is recorded of Jesus entering into the temple and driving out those who were buying and selling, turning over the tables. You see, the sojourners who would make the annual pilgrimage to the holy city for worship would have to secure animals for their annual sacrifice. So unfortunately, those animals would have to endure the journey that was quite often dangerous and tedious. And according to the law, the animal made for sacrifice must be without blemish, perfect. And because of the travel and the danger of the travel and the distance and length of the travel, by the time the sojourners would arrive to the temple, their sacrifice, in most cases, would not be perfect. And so there were those who would set up tables, money changers, and would make allowance for those persons to purchase their sacrifice at the money changer's table there at the temple. Unfortunately, the price for the animals, for the convenience of the animals, were in excess. In a real sense, what they were doing was taking advantage of the poor, those who, again, had to use that opportunity to secure a perfect sacrifice. This bothered Jesus as these money changers and buyers and sellers were gathered at the temple. It incited righteous indignation in Jesus. And so we have the story of Jesus turning over the table. He turns over the table of dishonesty and the tables that took advantage of the poor. And he declared that my house shall be a house of prayer. This is not just some random anger on the part of Jesus. It was a severe issue for Jesus, for the space that was designed for sacrifice and for worship and prayer was instead turned into a place of corruption. Imagine that, the sacred becoming corrupted. Jesus sees that this place, the temple, had become the place that was supposed to be a place where access to healing was to take place, and this was distorted by exploitation. Jesus refused to leave it that way, and so he turned over the tables. But I have to also submit to you on this Holy Monday that this act of Jesus was not only an act to confront systemic injustice and the ways that systems take advantage of the poor. There's also a very personal and practical approach to this story on the Holy Monday. It's hard to ignore the crowd that gathered in the temple and around the temple. The crowded nature of this sacred space has some symbolism. I want to submit that sometimes our lives become crowded. Sometimes our lives become cluttered with fear, bitterness, worry, and burdens that were never meant for us to carry. Sometimes we allow those feelings and the crowded nature of those emotions to outcrowd and remove Christ as the center of our lives. Sometimes our soul become crowded. Sometimes the place that should be, or the space that should be a place of peace, becomes overwhelmed with anxiety and confusion. But just as we remember today about our Savior intentional about confronting injustice as it relates to taking advantage and exploiting the poor, The very practical message of Holy Monday is that Jesus is also intentional about turning over the tables of those crowded places in our lives. Just as Jesus cleared the clutter in the temple, I'm going to submit to you that this Holy Monday, that you consider that your Savior, my Savior, is intentional about decluttering our lives, making space for what is truly important. Jesus confronts what is wrong, and Jesus makes room for what is right. I believe that's the word for today. Don't be afraid of the places where Jesus is actually turning over the tables, making room for something more in our lives. Let him turn over the table of confusion and fear. Let Jesus turn over the table of those things that were meant to represent peace, but instead have represented a disruption. Let Jesus turn over the tables in our lives to make room for the intended purpose. Jesus is in the business of disrupting that which do not belong. And this means that what has been disturbed by Jesus is for a purpose. You'll notice that in the conclusion of the story, that those who needed healing, Jesus was able to heal those persons and provide what they needed. Maybe in the real sense, that's what the symbol of the table turning, or another aspect of the table turning, may be considered for us to consider. That what has been cluttered and what has been overturned in our lives is done so to make room for redemption. Let Jesus restore your focus, because the same Jesus who overturns tables also opens up arms for the wounded. Let Jesus come in and turn over the tables on this Holy Monday.